So the prices of RAM, storage, or SSDs, GPUs have gone absolutely insane. But the prices are just really bad. And like the big ZTT himself says, we are currently in a time that I'm calling Ramageddon. Honestly, with AM5 prices right now, it feels like the end of the world as we know it. And since I literally built and paid for a PC myself just a month ago, trust me, I felt the pain. But if you want to build a $1,000 gaming PC in 2026, it is still possible. And you can expect to get around 115 FPS in Fortnite, 1080p Ultra of course, 85 FPS in Call of Duty, and around 50 FPS in Cyberpunk with RTX on. This build is rough. So if you want to know how to put together a parts list for builds like this, watch until the end to see the full benchmarks. Starting off with the CPU, we're going with the Ryzen 5 9600X. And look, AM5 has been expensive since the day it launched. It's like AMD said, welcome to the future, please hand over your wallet. But finally, we have an AM5 chip that doesn't require a small loan to buy. The 9600X is actually cheaper than the 7600, and it performs better. Also, it doesn't force you to sacrifice GPU power just to say you're on AM5. It's a 6-core CPU with a 5.4 GHz boost clock, and it's at around $178. It's honestly the first time AM5 has felt like a real budget option instead of a luxury platform pretending to be affordable. And yes, we're using the stock cooler. Not because it's amazing, but because AM5 coolers are basically paid DLC at this point. And we're trying to stay under $1,000 without selling a kidney. The bottom line, the 9600X gives you a modern AM5 performance, great gaming numbers, and it doesn't destroy the budget. It's the perfect CPU for this build. For the motherboard, we're going with the MSI Pro A620AM-B Evo. And yeah, this part hurts just a little. It has no Wi-Fi, and I never like recommending motherboards without Wi-Fi, especially in 2026 when everything in your house connects wirelessly. But AM5 motherboards are priced like they come, with a free cruise vacation. So, to stay under $1,000, this was the cleanest price to cut out. But I do want to mention this clearly. If you have an extra, about $20, you can upgrade to the Gigabyte B650M Gaming Plus Wi-Fi DDR5 Micro ATX, $109. And honestly, this board fixes about every complaint that people have with the A620. You get built-in Wi-Fi, so no USB dongles sticking out the back. You get better VRMs, which helps with the CPU boost stability. You get more future-proofing for AM5 upgrades, and you get better BIOS support and more features overall. So here's the deal. If you're trying to stay strictly under $1,000, stick with the A620. If you can stretch the budget by $19, the B650M Gaming Plus Wi-Fi is absolutely worth it. And it won't change your gaming performance, but it will make the build feel more complete and more modern. Because if you don't have Wi-Fi, you gotta run Ethernet. And if you don't have Ethernet, you have a potato. Alright, time to bite the bullet. The RAM. We're going with one stick of 16GB DDR5. Specifically, the G-Skill Flare X5 clocked at 5,600 MHz with a CL rating of 36. And yes, I know, a single channel DDR5 feels wrong, but D prices right now are basically, oh, you wanted RAM? Give me your entire paycheck. Now, I do want to mention something interesting I found while digging through eBay for a cheaper option. You can technically buy DDR5 laptop RAM and use a $30 desktop adapter. You put the laptop laptop RAM in the adapter, and with this you'll get dual channel memory. The one I recommend right now is like a Corsair kit. It will be on screen, maybe in the description, and I feel like that is the best option. I also saw one available on eBay, but I would go with the newer one for that. I think it was around $100. Don't quote me. But laptop RAM is way cheaper, and the adapter lets you plug it in to the desktop motherboard. But here's the catch. It won't be very fast. It usually runs at lower frequencies, and it often doesn't support XMP/Expo. And the whole setup looks kind of like a science experiment inside your case. It ain't gonna look good. So yes, it is an option if you're absolutely desperate to stay under $100. But for this build, I don't recommend it unless you're doing it for fun or content. The safest move is still 16 gigabytes of DDR5, 5600 megahertz or higher, CO rating of 36 or lower if possible. Yeah, well, don't go over $200 is really what I'm saying. You can, if you find a stick or 2 sticks of 16 gigabyte RAM for DDR5, for under $150, you've hit gold, but just don't go over 200. That's all I'm asking. Just really, I would go with the one I recommended, but you do you. Alright, it's storage time, and actually this was one of the easier parts of the build, even though storage prices are crazy, and I don't want to get into this one, but we're going with the Timetech 35TT-FP6 PC 512GB M2 SSD. A PCIe 3.0 NVMe drive like that stays under $100 and gives you perfectly fine speeds for gaming and Windows. Now, I know 512 gigabytes in 2026 feels like you're living dangerously, but with the way the market is, this is the cleanest way to stay under budget without tanking performance. And here's the good news. Any 512 gigabyte NVMe drive with PCIe 3.0 or 4.0 speeds will work just fine. Just don't go above $100. It's not worth it for this build. PCIe 4.0 speeds is nice, but for gaming, the difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4 is basically Windows loads 2 seconds faster. So don't stress over it. And if you want more storage later or now, you can get a cheap 1TB SATA HDD for around $55. I have that linked in the description as well. Or a second NVMe drive when prices calm down. My recommendation at the current time is get the NVMe, also get the hard drive. You can put your games on the NVMe and put your operating system on the hard drive. Now, if you're going to get Call of Duty or something like that, get the NVMe. However, really, I think the speeds between an NVMe and an SSD and a hard drive aren't that far apart. So really go with whatever rocks your boat. You could go with a 2TB hard drive and not even get an NVMe. Though I don't think that's allowed, really. Feels wrong, but don't take my advice. I mean, do take my advice. But for now, 512 gigabytes of NVMe's keeps the build fast, clean, and under budget. Alright, for the GPU, the part everyone actually cares about and the part that took me the longest to find. I've never struggled with something this bad in my entire life. I am dead serious. This is horrible. Anywho, for this build, we're going with the Radeon RX 7600 XT at around $350. It's the best price to performance card in this range right now. And the big win here is that 16 gigabytes of VRAM in 2026. That's a huge deal for 1080p longevity, especially with newer games eating VRAM like it's for breakfast. But to be fair and mention all other GPUs that could work in this price range, because depending on sales, used listings, or other random eBay miracles, you might find a better deal. So here's the realistic alternatives. Option 1, the RX 7600 XT. This is the main pick. $350 new, 16 gigabytes of VRAM, best price to performance in this price range. Beats the RTX 4060 in most games, great for 1080p Ultra and even some 1440p. This card is the one we're using in this build. Option 2, the RTX 3060 used. Usually $220 to $260 on eBay, has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, still solid for 1080p, but slower than the 7600 XT. Best if you're trying to save some money. If you can find one for under $250, it's not a bad pickup, especially if you want to be an Nvidia fanboy. These are basically all Nvidia fanboys. Option 3, the RTX 3060 Ti, again, used. Normally $260 to $300 used. Faster than the 3060, still competitive in 2026, but VRAM is only 8 gigabytes, so could struggle in newer titles with ultra textures. If you find one for around $280, it's a great deal, but do not overpay. The option 4 is the RTX 4070 Super used. I have found a lot of them under $300, but when I was researching what's the average price selling on eBay, it's actually $450 to $550. So I'm showing y'all all the listings as I talk, but just keep that in mind. I may have found a lot of good deals and you just can't. Way faster than anything else on this list, but completely destroys the budget if you find a normal price thing. Only worth it if you're upgrading later, but really not for this build. If you can find a good card, priced good, great. This is more of a future upgrade path card though, not a $1,000 build card. Option 5. The GPU I am rocking right now, the GTX 1660 Super used. I bought mine for $100, but they're normally $120 to $150 used. Only worth considering if you're building a super budget system, not recommended for AM5. If you already own one, you know exactly what it can and can't do, but this is the I'm broke but I want AM5 option. Final recommendation for this build, the RX 7600 XT is the clear winner. It gives you the best performance, the best VRAM, the best longevity, and the best value at $350. For the power supply, we're going with the MSI Mag A650BN, a 650 watt 80 plus bronze certified unit. And honestly, this is one of the easiest choices in the entire build because I love this power supply, man. Oh, well, that's not the real reason. Off script, Grant. Gotta stop doing that. The RX 9060X paired with the RX 7600 XT doesn't need crazy wattage. You don't need an 850 watt gold unit. You don't need a fully modular PSU. And you definitely don't need to spend $120 plus on a power delivery for a $1,000 build. This thing is reliable, affordable, quiet enough, and actually is affordable and available. Plus, it's ranked tier C or higher on the PCU tier list, which is exactly what you want for a mid-ranged gaming PC. Nothing sketchy, nothing off-brand, nothing that looks like it came out of a pre-built from 2012. If you plan on upgrading to something like a 4070 Super or a higher-end AM5 CPU later, you could go with a 750 or an 850 watt unit, but for this build, 650 watts is the perfect sweet spot. The bottom line, it's cheap, it's safe, it works, and it keeps us under budget. That's all we need. And finally, the case. This is always the most personal part of any build because everyone has different taste. Some people want RGB everywhere, some people want airflow, some people want a zebra case where they have all black components in a white case, and some people just want a case that looks like a mini fridge. All respect to all three. But for this build, we're going with the Lian Li Vector V100 Mini. This case hits the perfect balance for a budget AM5 system. It's cheap, which we need. It has good cable management, which AM5 desperately needs. It has solid airflow, which the 9600X definitely needs. And it doesn't look like a $20 office case from 2009 or a Dell Optiplex. It's clean, it's modern, and it doesn't make your build look like you cut every corner possible. Even though we definitely cut a few corners to stay under $1,000, like we're not using an Okino's case. If you want something flashier or something with more fans pre-installed or something with a wood grain front panel, go for it. Cases are 100% personal preference. But for this build, the Vector V100 Mini keeps everything low, the airflow high, and the overall look professional. It's the perfect budget but not cheap case for 2026 AM5 gaming. The total cost. Right now this build comes out to $983 with the base parts and $1,039 if you add the optional 1TB hard drive. Both versions stay close to the $1,000 target, which is really good. For the Ryzen 5 9600X plus the RX 7600X T 1080p benchmarks. Alright, let's get into the benchmarks, because this is the part everyone actually wants to see. These numbers are all 1080p with ultra settings for esports titles and medium settings for heavier AAA games. Starting off with Fortnite in 1080p Ultra, you'll get 115 FPS. Fortnite runs great on this combo because it's more CPU intensive, smooth, consistent, and perfect for competitive play. Count CS2 1080p Ultra 200 to 220 FPS. CS2 is extremely CPU heavy, but the 9600X handles it like a champ. Valorant 1080p Ultra, you'll get around 295 to 325 FPS. Valorant always runs insanely well on modern hardware, and this build pushes it into the 300 plus range. League of Legends at 1080p Ultra, 190 to 195 FPS. League barely touches the GPU. This is easy work for the 9600X. Cyberpunk 2077 RTX on 1080p medium, 50 to 75 FPS. Cyberpunk is brutal, but with medium settings and RTX on, the 7600 XT stays smooth and playable. Marvel Rivals at 1080p medium, 90 to 100 FPS. This game is well optimized and medium settings keep the frame rate right around 100 FPS. Call of Duty Battlefield 6 1080p medium, 85 to 145 FPS. Call of Duty performance varies by the map and mode, and medium settings keeps it comfortably around 100 FPS most of the time. So yeah, that's the full benchmark of a $1,000 AM5 build in 2026. And as you saw in the benchmarks, the performance really depends on the type of game you're playing. Most CPU-intensive games like CS2, Valorant, and League get way higher FPS because the Ryzen 5 9600X is an absolute monster for the price. But more GPU-intensive games like Cyberpunk, Marvel Rivals, and Call of Duty naturally get lower FPS because those titles lean heavily on the GPU horsepower, and the 7600 XT can only push so far at those settings. And here's the funny part. Even though AM5 build actually beats my $1,000 AM4 build in some games, I would still recommend the AM4 build overall because of pricing right now. AM4 is just way more cost effective at the moment, and you get more balanced performance for your money. AM5 is great, but the market is rough. So, if you're trying to squeeze every dollar, AM4 still makes a lot of sense. But either way, the AM5 proves you can still get great performance in 2026 without going over budget. If you want me to build this PC for you, email me using the email on screen. Hit like, hit sub, maybe share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. You don't need to fall, you all your heart.